Thanks, John. Yeah, so as John mentioned, I'm playing the Matthew Sperry bass, which is a great way to come full circle on returning to this community that nurtured and supported and growed me as a musician for so many years. I only met Matt a few times, but heard him many times and still listen to him regularly and constantly inspired by him. So it's been a real honor to play this bass. So I'm going to dedicate this set to him, and I'm also going to talk a little bit later about some stuff. But the first thing I'll mention is that a couple of dates that are, I think, relevant to each other and kind of riff on where John's been going. February 11th, 1916, Emma Goldman is arrested for distributing birth control literature. She was a comrade of Sanger's, although took a different path, had a slightly different agenda. Maybe radically different in some ways, but she was eventually convicted and did a fairly short stint at the Queens Correctional Facility 2 years before she's deported from this country for anti-war resistance. And also January 20th, 2017, which is not only the day that the fascist-in-chief was elected, or inaugurated, that is, but it was the day that over 200 people that took to the streets of D.C. to protest that inauguration were rounded up and kettled and arrested. Several of them were abused, some sexually abused by the MPD, and charged with multiple felony counts. Thankfully, just the other day, charges were dropped against over 120 of the defendants, but there's still 59 on trial. You have to realize these are people that they're trying to throw in jail for 70 years, mostly young people, for the act of protesting against a government that we all say, hey, everybody should protest against. So all I'm saying to you, as a slight, as a plea, I guess, is just to, let's try to support the people who take to the streets or do whatever they feel is necessary to help make this world a better place. So this first song is going to be dedicated to my friends and comrades there. It's called A las Barricadas. It was a Spanish Civil War anti-fascist anthem. can't play free anymore. I can only play songs. I don't know what happened. Sorry. And I can almost only play songs that nobody knows who wrote them. For some reason, that just feels better. This is a song that I learned from Anne Briggs, the great English revival folk singer from the 60s. It's a love song called The Snow It Melts the Soonest. And as Finkbeiner said, I have a C extension on this bass, which is rad. And this song will make use of it, because Anne mostly sang in C.
had a boy and a bonny, bonny boy who would come and would go at request. And my own bonny boy was my pride and my joy, and I built him a bower in my breast. I built him a bower in my breast. I sat myself down on the green mossy ground to gaze upon his wondrous fare. But who should I spy but my own bonny boy, fast locked in some other girl's arms, fast locked in some other girl's arms. From the valley and down the long alley, like someone who had trouble in mind. And I hoped and I hoomed and I played on my flute, but no bonny boy could I find. But no bonny boy could I find. The girl who's the joy of my own bonny boy, let her take from him what she can. And whether he loves me or whether he don't, I'll walk with that boy now and then. I'll walk with that boy now and then.
Thanks. I guess I went into another Ann Briggs song there called Bonnie Boy, obviously. And it's funny, I get to play with all these amazing singers, including recently this week, and Dina, who's here, and all these, and sometimes I sing, and it's just hilarious. But it makes it kind of funnier. From a musicological standpoint, that song is interesting or those two songs are interesting to me because they're both minor key songs in the same key, and the first one starts with a major sixth and then the tag is a minor sixth, and the second song is exactly the opposite. I think that's rad. Yeah, thank you. So another date to think about that I'm thinking about is March 15th, 2015, which was when the siege of Kobani was lifted in what is called Syria, but is actually like all nation states, a conglomeration of many different peoples and territories and histories. And that was when mostly Kurdish revolutionary forces who were fighting for an autonomous, gender-neutral revolutionary society drove so-called Islamic State from their territory and kind of began, similarly to what happened in Spain in 1936, this horrible thing that happened kind of opened way, tragically, and not without tons of sadness, but opened a way for an experiment, a social experiment. And this is probably the largest experiment that's happened consciously in recorded history that I know of millions of people, between 4 and 7 million people, depending on who you talk to, consciously striving for a revolutionary, horizontal, non-hierarchical, non-patriarchal society. I think all of these things come together when we think about the history of why we're here and what we're fighting against today, and how what can be patly described as fascism, but is something much older and deeper than that, seeks to basically oppress and repress women first. And every time fascism or anything like that rears its head, it's always women that get immediately put in some sort of traditional space, and perceived ethnic minorities follow. So I think fighting for women's right to their control of their own bodies is the cornerstone of any sort of liberation struggle. Having said that, I'm going to play this Kurdish song in honor of the people in Rojava, Kurdistan, struggling for this that I mentioned earlier. This song is called Way Low, which means alas. And it's a sad song, but it's a hopeful song. So apparently we were running ahead of schedule earlier, so I'm going to play even one more. This one without much of a lecture. Other than that, this is a Thelonious Monk song dedicated to Ben Goldberg, my mentor and one of my heroes. And it's also appropriately called Ask Me Now because consent is sexy. Thank you. Thanks to Dina and Vijay and John and everybody who helped organize this.